Right, it's tax season right now. We have a great thing coming up pretty soon. March 19th, which is a Thursday at the Westin right here in Southfield, we're going to be co-hosting an event with Michigan Department of Treasury. So we teamed up with State Treasury thinking it would be a great idea to try and explain that besides the traditional IRS fixes that exist, that Michigan also has solutions.
My name is Gregg Mahaffey. I'm an enrolled agent with Levy and Associates. And basically, I'm the person that interacts with the Internal Revenue Service on behalf of our clients, the taxpayers, who are into tax problems. I know the people at the IRS. I know how they work, how they think, because I was there for 32 and a half years. Transactions, I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it, and I know what it's going to take to get the situation fixed.
Welcome back. This is Hire It Done. My name's Adam Helfman. One day at a time.
That's about all you take.
Right? Something. Anyways. So we're switching gears for a quick second. It's the time of year for contractors who have to get their taxes all in order. So I always like to bring on a good friend of the show and like the benchmark in the tax industry, Laurence Levy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Laurence.
Besides being a good tax guy, how about we've known each other for the good part of 45 years?
Every
maybe?
bit of it. My whole life.
And mine too.
Laurence and I had a play date when we were like 5 and 6 years old. That was in 1973, 74.
Yeah.
Something like that. Crazy.
I'm getting gray hair now these days, but yeah.
At least you have it. It's the best part. So you tell us who you brought today.
So today in the Levy office, we have former IRS revenue officers, and we actually just hired a couple of weeks ago a gentleman from the appeals office, which was a great one. However, the guy that's sitting here right in the Hire It Done studios is a guy that used to work at the IRS in the local Pontiac office for over 32 years. By the way, and you can see by his hat, for those of you watching Hire It Done live, he was in Desert Storm, so we'd like to also say thank you for your service to the country. You were in the Gulf War and the Navy, so thank you very much, Gregg, of course. But Gregg, you worked at the IRS for over 32 years here locally. You were the one that would knock on the doors. You were the one that would issue levies like my last name, a bank levy, a wage levy, and now for several years now, you've been on the other side working on behalf of taxpayers who find themselves that get into messes. As you well know, Adam's show here at Hire It Done focuses primarily on contractors. To your left, you have a gentleman that owns a handyman company with his wife that's been around since the 90s. Please God, he's never been a client and doesn't need to be a client, but it's tax season. Over your years as a former IRS revenue officer and now on the other side, you've saved our clients millions of dollars, whether it's through an offer in compromise, penalty abatements, because of your experience as a former IRS collections, what they call revenue officer. You also spent a few years in the offer in compromise unit. Doesn't it make you feel good as a human being to be able to help people who find themselves in a jam with the IRS or, for that matter, the state?
Yeah, basically, it's outreach of what I did at the IRS. Towards the end of my IRS career, I came to the realization I could actually help people. I didn't have to always kick them in the butt. I didn't have to go and levy them into oblivion. I didn't like doing that. I would reach out and say, hey, guys, you got this problem. Let's figure out how you got into this problem, and let's figure out what's needed to get you out of the problem, and more importantly, stay out of the problem in the future.
And I'll tell you, working now with our clients, that's one of your main focus points. If a contractor is listening today, or a homeowner, whoever it may be, I want to share with you a quick story. It wasn't a file that you worked on, but we had a contractor right here in Michigan. Gentleman owed the IRS over $1 million. And I said that correct, over $1 million. I was telling the handyman company here before we went on in the studio, and he was able to get an offer in compromise accepted for just about $100,000, so 10 cents in the dollar. But I want to be really clear to all of Adam's listeners that an offer in compromise is not for everyone because everyone doesn't qualify for one. But a solution does exist no matter what it's going to be, and it's our team that will help you get through that. Besides the collection side of it, a lot of contractors sometimes find themselves in an audit situation, which is formally called an exam. And Gregg, I know you've seen that quite a bit in our office, but if you're a contractor, you got to keep good books and good records, because if IRS comes a knocking, you want to be able to say, no problem, here's all my income, here are all my expenses. In fact, right now we're in the middle of talking about contractors with another heating and cooling company that happens to find themselves in the unfortunate position of an IRS audit. Besides it being tax season, of course, everyone in this room needs to file taxes. Everyone listening needs to file their taxes. And we always say you want to be happy with your CPA. You want to feel a comfort level no different than you would if you take your kid to the dentist or the pediatrician. So to educate a lot of the listeners today, whether it's the contractors or the homeowners that need the services of the contractors, a lot of the free taxreturnpreparation.com, we see a lot of mistakes that get made when you try and prepare your own taxes. But getting back to Adam and the contractors, why are you here, Adam? You're here because a guy like me who needs to have my roof redone, a guy like me that has to have my ceiling fan put up, I'm going to go and reach out to the resources that Hire It Done has, because I know that I can't do those things. People need to recognize when they need assistance.
And I appreciate the good words because, again, one of the things we do when we find contractors, we pre-screen them. We do criminal history and background checks. We call their suppliers to see if they pay their bills. I've never done if they pay their taxes. I've never done that, but
it's probably not a bad thing because tax liens, whether it's federal or state, they're public record.
I have a question for Gregg. So, Gregg, you worked for the IRS, and you were the guy that knocked on doors. I had that happen to me, and it scared the living daylights out of me. The question is from your perspective, going there because people have to pay their taxes. I mean, everyone has to pay taxes. The question is when a homeowner or a person, whoever, was like, I'm assuming you could see that they were scared.
Definitely.
So, did you ever have feel bad, or did you have the leeway to say, okay, you know what? Like someone said to you, hey, I just the sign of the times. I do want to pay it back. Did you have sympathy? Were you allowed to make some moves, or was it just the guidelines and you couldn't go outside the guidelines? How did that work?
I reached out to the people. I put myself in their shoes because I learned through experience over the decades of doing that job that if you come across as hard-nosed and hardcore, the people will clam up. They would stop talking. You don't get the information you need. Things don't get resolved. The situation gets worse, gets into a bad negative spiral. If you reach out and you listen to people, that's the key, listening to people. Get to know their situation.
Right.
Talking back and forth, easing their fears to let them know that we are human too.
Is there ever a situation where you knew the people owed so much money they could never pay it back? I mean,
all the time.
Of course.
It happens all the time.
So
and
what do you
there's
do?
all types of programs for that.
There's a lot of programs, but to answer Adam's question, because we see it somewhat differently than maybe Gregg would have seen it, the new gentleman's name is Peter, or Claire would see it, there is discretion. And I'm not sure that there should be the discretion that there is, but there is a tremendous amount of discretion.
There is.
There
You
is.
have some movement.
And absolutely. Gregg sees it all the time now working as a power of attorney. What should be a more cut and dry, straight yes and no answer, there is discretion. And in fact, the discretion exists, in our opinion, even more so in appeals.
So that's what I was. We're talking with Laurence Levy and Gregg Mahaffey from Levy Tax.
Levy and Associates.
Levy and Associates. What's the website?
LevyTaxHelp.com.
LevyTaxHelp.com. So if anyone's behind on their taxes, they got the IRS letters, any of that, they call you.
That's right.
and they. What's the first thing that happens on the call?
We say, tell us why, tell us what's going on, what do you know, give us the quick Cliff Note version. We hear what's going on, and then we schedule an appointment to come on in, or we try and sometimes even handle it right there on the phone so that first night they can sleep better at night knowing that there's light.
Causes a lot of anxiety.
Tremendous amount of anxiety. And I was talking to a lady on Thursday night with her and her husband. They owe the IRS about $150,000. Not contractors, by the way. In fact, he's a car salesman and made a lot of money, but unfortunately made some poor decisions, but also was a good parent. They helped put their kids through school, private school, college, as any parent would do. And for that, you can't blame them. But they owe money. And at the end of the conversation, I was talking to both of them. I said, I'm on my way to dinner. And the husband said, do me a favor. Please tell my wife that the IRS is not going to come and seize our house. I said, all right, just give me a second. Please be quiet. Let me talk. So I said to the wife, I said, I promise you, the IRS is not going to come and seize your house today, tomorrow, in a week, or a month. In fact, it's very, 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 very uncommon.
Well, what happens as soon as someone decides to hire you? What happens next? Is it stop the IRS from contacting the homeowner?
One of our staff, one of our POAs, like a Gregg, will contact the IRS that day or the very next day, and we'll file the power of attorney, and we will make sure that whatever the solution is gets implemented, and all contact does then get redirected to go through our office. It gives you a chance to focus on your life, your business, your family, your loved ones, so we can focus on fixing the problem.
And at that point, the homeowner, contractor, whoever who's engaging with you,
Right.
Lawrence Levy and Associates, they should follow everything you say.
They should.
Okay.
And do they always? Not necessarily. But sometimes it's, it takes some time to break some of the bad habits and the cycles. But eventually, we're pretty good about trying to instill in them the proper things to do. And
What's
this is
the
just about
phone
learning.
number? Someone can
Local
call.
phone number 248-557-4048. But the good one is the 800 number, 800-TAX-LEVY. And yes, Levy really is my last name. And we always like to say, don't fear a levy, hire a levy. And of course, the slogan that's on this radio station is you want a levy on your side, not one against you. And by the way, because I'm a little sentimental, even though I come across maybe not so much, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate our lifelong friendship. I appreciate what you do out there for the community,
Thank
for
you.
people like me. And you're a good guy with a great heart, and I only wish you the most success in your life,
Thank you.
personal and business.
We'll be back.